I want you to walk down the crowded street of any major modern financial district and look incredibly closely at the incredibly flashy, brightly colored luxury sports cars aggressively revving their engines at the red lights. I want you to look at the massive, heavily branded designer logos plastered completely across the chests of people walking proudly out of high-end luxury shopping malls. I want you to open your smartphone, scroll through your social media feed, and look at the endless, exhausting, highly curated stream of people proudly posing with massive golden watches, wearing incredibly expensive designer shoes, and drinking $1,000 bottles of champagne at exclusive VIP nightclubs. Society has completely, systematically, and successfully brainwashed you into believing that these loud, highly visible displays of excessive spending are the ultimate, undeniable proof of financial success. You have been heavily conditioned since you were a young child, completely. Programmed by television and corporate marketing to believe that the primary goal of making money is to immediately buy incredibly expensive objects so that you can aggressively prove to absolutely everyone around you that you are no longer poor. But today, I am going to expose a financial reality so incredibly dark, so deeply psychological, and so highly counterintuitive that you will absolutely never, ever look at a luxury brand or a flashy sports car the exact same way for the rest of your natural life. The modern luxury industry is absolutely not designed for the actual true wealthy elite. It is a highly optimized, brilliantly engineered psychological extraction machine designed entirely to legally steal the future wealth of the deeply insecure, highly vulnerable middle class. The true, untouchable global elite completely and utterly despise the concept of looking wealthy. In this massive video, we are going to violently unplug you from the toxic, soul-crushing illusion of social status and modern consumerism. We are going to expose the brutal mathematics of how the luxury industry keeps you permanently impoverished, explain the terrifying, highly dangerous legal targets you paint directly on your own back when you try to look rich, and show you exactly why the true masters of the economic universe practice a highly guarded, completely invisible lifestyle known as stealth wealth. And if you stick with me until the absolute end of this video, I will give you the exact step-by-step psychological escape plan to completely assassinate your ego, permanently disconnect from the social matrix, and transition from a bleeding, highly visible target into an untouchable, financially invisible ghost. To truly understand the absolute magnitude of this psychological scam, we must first deeply deconstruct the human ego and the biological desire for status. Human beings are inherently, fundamentally tribal creatures. For thousands of years of primitive human evolution, your absolute survival depended entirely on your perceived rank and status within your tribe. If you looked successful, powerful, and dominant, you automatically received better resources, better protection, and a significantly higher chance of survival. The modern corporate marketing matrix deeply understands this primitive biological hardwiring, and they have completely, ruthlessly weaponized it against your bank account. The massive luxury clothing corporations, the high-end car dealerships, and the predatory credit card companies spend billions of dollars every single year to aggressively convince you that buying their completely useless, heavily overpriced products will instantly elevate your status in the modern tribe. They sell you the incredibly toxic, highly manipulative lie that respect, admiration, and human power can be easily purchased with a quick swipe of a glowing plastic card. But let us look at the brutal, undeniably mathematical reality of what actually happens when a middle-class worker attempts to buy the illusion of wealth. Let us imagine a completely average corporate employee who finally saves up $5,000 after years of exhausting labor. Instead of aggressively deploying that highly valuable capital into a cash-flowing asset, a broad market index fund, or a scalable digital side business, their deeply insecure ego completely takes over. They desperately want their coworkers, their distant family, and complete strangers on the internet to think they are incredibly successful. So they walk confidently into a luxury car dealership And they use that $5,000 as a tiny down payment on a brand new $80,000 luxury vehicle. The car salesman looks at them, smiles a fake predatory smile, and legally locks them into a massive heavy iron financial chain. The worker happily agrees to pay $900 a month for the next 84 agonizing months at an absolutely brutal, suffocating 8% interest rate. The exact second that worker proudly drives that shiny, glowing piece of heavy metal off the dealership lot, the vehicle mathematically loses 20% of its total value. It simply vanishes into thin air. They are instantly completely underwater on the loan, meaning they owe the bank significantly more money than the car is actually worth. Over the next 7 long years, that worker will violently bleed out tens of thousands of dollars in pure interest payments, massive luxury insurance premiums, and incredibly expensive specialized maintenance, all for an object that is mathematically guaranteed to depreciate and aggressively rot away into a worthless, rusting pile of scrap metal. They completely sacrificed their ability to invest. They completely destroyed their monthly cash flow, and they permanently chained themselves to their exhausting corporate desk, simply because they wanted to impress anonymous strangers at a red light who absolutely do not care about them. The luxury car is not a symbol of success. It is a massive, glowing red receipt of profound financial illiteracy. It screams to the entire world that you are willing to completely destroy your future family's financial freedom, just to temporarily soothe your own crushing internal insecurity. This is the exact fundamental difference between what the financial world calls new money and old money. New money represents people who recently acquired a high income, like lottery winners, highly paid athletes, or young corporate executives. Because they grew up completely lacking capital, they have a desperate, burning psychological need to prove to the world that they finally made it. They buy the massive diamond chains, the bright yellow sports cars, and the incredibly loud, logo-covered designer clothing. And mathematically, a massive percentage of new money goes completely bankrupt within a decade because they completely confuse spending money with having wealth. Spending money is the exact mathematical opposite of having wealth. Every dollar you spend on a luxury liability is a dollar that can never, ever be used to buy your financial freedom. Old money, the families who have maintained massive generational empires for over a century, operate on the exact opposite frequency. Old money completely whispers, while new money screams. Old money deeply understands that the greatest luxury in the human experience is not a sports car, but absolute, total anonymity and complete control over your own time. But the mathematical extraction of your wealth is only the very first layer of this terrifying consumer trap. The absolute most dangerous consequence of trying to look rich is the massive, highly visible target you intentionally, voluntarily paint directly onto your own back. When you drive a flashy luxury car into your suburban neighborhood, when you wear a massive golden watch to a family gathering, and when you constantly brag about your expensive vacations on social media, you genuinely believe you are projecting power and success. In reality, in the dark, predatory financial ocean of the real world, you are projecting incredible weakness. You are essentially pouring buckets of fresh, warm blood into a dark ocean completely infested with starving, aggressive sharks. The exact moment you aggressively signal to the world that you have massive disposable capital, the entire social and legal matrix immediately, completely changes how it treats you. Suddenly, every single financially irresponsible family member and distant high school friend starts calling you with tragic emergency stories, begging to borrow money that they absolutely will never, ever pay back. You become the unofficial, unpaid central bank for your entire extended family. If you say no, you are instantly labeled as the evil, greedy, arrogant villain, and they will completely try to destroy your reputation. If you say yes, you are actively burning your own hard-earned capital to enable their terrible financial habits, draining your own empire to save their sinking ships. But the sharks get significantly bigger and much more highly organized. The predatory legal system aggressively targets people who look wealthy but completely lack the invisible legal fortresses of the true elite. If you get into a minor, completely harmless car accident while driving an old, beat-up 10-year-old sedan, the other driver will simply exchange basic insurance information and move on with their life. If you get into that exact same minor accident while driving a massive, brand-new luxury SUV and wearing a designer suit, the other driver will immediately look at your car, see massive glowing dollar signs in their eyes, magically claim they have severe permanent neck pain, and hire an aggressive, predatory lawyer to ruthlessly sue you for hundreds of thousands of dollars. By constantly trying to look incredibly rich to the public, you completely expose yourself to frivolous lawsuits, you become a massive prime target for violent robbery and home invasions, and you mathematically guarantee that every single home contractor, mechanic, and service worker will automatically massively overcharge you the exact second they see you pulling up in a luxury vehicle. You are paying a massive, completely unnecessary, invisible tax every single day of your life, entirely because your fragile human ego demands public validation. You are trading your absolute peace of mind, your physical safety, and your long-term financial security for the cheap, temporary dopamine hit of a stranger's fleeting glance. Now I want you to take a massive, deep breath, completely wipe the toxic illusion of status from your mind, and look directly at the absolute highest levels of the true global elite. I want you to look at the incredibly powerful billionaires who own massive private equity firms, the quiet investors who completely control entire blocks of commercial real estate, and the people who literally hold the invisible strings of the global economy. Do you honestly, genuinely believe that the true elite walk around the grocery store wearing shirts with massive glowing brand logos completely covering their chests? Absolutely not. The true masters of the universe practice a highly disciplined, deeply psychological, and heavily guarded lifestyle known as stealth wealth. They completely and profoundly understand that invisibility is the absolute ultimate superpower in a highly predatory, modern world. If you were to walk right past a true multimillionaire practitioner of stealth wealth on the street today, you would absolutely never notice them. They actively, intentionally dress in high quality, but completely unbranded, plain, boring clothing. They drive incredibly reliable, deeply boring, 10-year-old vehicles like Toyotas or Hondas that perfectly blend into the gray background of the highway. They live in beautiful, highly secure homes. But the exterior facing the public street is completely modest and unassuming. They do not post their expensive vacations on social media. They do not wear massive golden watches in public, and they absolutely never, ever brag about their massive investment portfolios at dinner parties. To the untrained, completely brainwashed eye of the middle class, the true elite look completely average, boring, and entirely unremarkable. They look like just another working-class citizen trying to get by, but behind that highly engineered, completely invisible, perfectly crafted facade, they hold terrifying, godlike financial power. Because they absolutely refuse to waste their highly valuable capital on depreciating luxury liabilities, they have massive, overflowing mountains of liquid cash and income-producing hard assets. If a massive, terrifying medical emergency strikes their family, they can instantly write a massive check without a single drop of sweat or panic. If a brutal economic recession destroys the housing market and everyone else is panicking, they have the invisible dry powder to aggressively buy up entire neighborhoods at a massive 50% discount. They hold absolute, total control over their own human time. They can completely walk away from any toxic situation, any terrible corporate boss, or any failing business relationship without a single second thought because their actual daily lifestyle costs a tiny, microscopic fraction of their passive income. They have achieved the ultimate supreme human dream, absolute, complete, unshakable options. The true elite deeply understand that real wealth is not what you aggressively show to the world. Real wealth is the massive, hidden iceberg floating completely beneath the surface of the dark water. The heavily indebted middle class has a tiny, fragile ice cube floating on top of the water for absolutely everyone to see, while completely drowning in massive debt right underneath the surface. The elite hide their massive iceberg completely beneath the water, effortlessly floating through the world with absolute invincibility. When you truly, deeply possess massive financial power, you completely lose the psychological desire to prove it to anyone else. A true, powerful lion never has to roar loudly just to prove it is the absolute king of the jungle. It simply walks with the quiet, undeniable confidence of absolute authority, and absolutely every other animal deeply respects it. If you are listening to this exact sentence right now, and you feel a massive, heavy iron mirror violently shattering in your mind, realizing that your lifelong desire for luxury brands, expensive watches, and flashy cars has been completely weaponized against you, keeping you permanently trapped in a cycle of exhausting corporate labor, you are officially stepping completely out of the consumer matrix. But I must issue a very serious, incredibly urgent warning right now. Transitioning into the stealth wealth lifestyle is incredibly psychologically painful at the very beginning. Your completely brainwashed friends and your deeply insecure coworkers will actively mock you. They will ask why you are driving an old, boring car when they know you have a high salary. They will secretly judge you for not wearing expensive clothes. You must be completely mentally prepared to endure their temporary, meaningless judgment in order to secure your permanent, absolute financial freedom. Grab a pen and a blank piece of paper right now. Eliminate absolutely all distractions around you. Turn off your glowing television screen and prepare to execute this actionable step-by-step escape plan to permanently assassinate your ego, completely disconnect from the toxic luxury matrix, and transition from a highly visible, bleeding target into an untouchable, mathematically lethal ghost of stealth wealth. Rule number 1. You must completely, radically, and violently assassinate your own biological ego and your deep toxic need for external validation. You must permanently stop caring about what deeply insecure, heavily indebted strangers think of your life. You must profoundly understand that the people trying to aggressively impress you with their luxury cars are completely drowning in massive debt and existential dread behind closed doors. Your new, absolute permanent goal is to actually be completely rich, not to look completely rich. You must actively, aggressively seek the quiet, undeniable peace of being the absolute wealthiest person in the entire room, while intentionally and strategically looking like the absolute poorest person in the room. Rule number 2. You must aggressively initiate a massive, violent purge of absolutely all depreciating status liabilities from your life immediately. If you are currently chained to a massive, suffocating luxury car payment, you must violently swallow your pride, aggressively sell the vehicle, and buy a deeply boring, highly reliable used car entirely with cash. You must immediately stop buying heavily branded, overpriced designer clothing that turns you into a walking, unpaid billboard for a massive global corporation. You are entirely taking the massive amounts of monthly cash flow that you were previously burning in the fiery furnace of social status, and you are aggressively injecting it directly into your invisible financial fortress. You are trading the cheap, temporary dopamine of a stranger's glance for the permanent, absolute titanium armor of true generational financial independence. Rule number 3. You must completely embrace the absolute, undeniable superpower of financial invisibility and strict, uncompromising silence. You must violently close your mouth regarding your financial success. You absolutely never tell your friends exactly how much money you make. You absolutely never tell your extended family about your massive investment portfolio or your incredibly profitable side business revenue. You actively, strategically complain about the high cost of groceries and the pain of taxes just to completely blend in with the normal, struggling population. You are building a massive, impenetrable camouflage net entirely over your growing wealth. By remaining completely silent and legally invisible, you completely eliminate the threat of greedy family members. You radically, drastically reduce the massive risk of predatory lawsuits, and you create an absolute, quiet, completely unbothered sanctuary where your wealth can violently compound and multiply entirely in the dark. Let us completely summarize this brutal, mind-bending reality before you go out and take massive, life-changing action today. The modern consumer matrix is a perfectly designed, highly efficient psychological trap. They aggressively weaponize your primitive human desire for tribal status to legally extract your wealth, selling you incredibly expensive, rapidly depreciating liabilities that completely destroy your financial future. The traditional advice to reward yourself with luxury items when you get a promotion or a raise is the absolute most dangerous, toxic, and mathematically destructive financial advice in the modern world. It guarantees that you will remain a highly visible, bleeding target, permanently trapped on an exhausting hamster wheel of lifelong lifestyle inflation. The absolute only possible way to win this completely rigged game is to violently unplug yourself from the illusion of status, aggressively assassinate your ego, and forcefully adopt the invisible, untouchable, godlike lifestyle of stealth wealth, exactly like a true master of the universe. If this terrifying, reality-shattering information finally opened your eyes, if you feel like I just violently ripped you out of the luxury brand matrix and handed you the absolute truth about how the global elite actually move entirely in silence, then I need you to absolutely destroy that like button and subscribe to the channel right now. You absolutely cannot afford to miss the extremely high-level, aggressive wealth-building strategies we have coming up next on this massive channel. And speaking of massive financial strategies that the elite use entirely in secret to completely avoid paying their fair share to the government matrix. If you want to deeply understand the absolute biggest, most highly guarded secret of the billionaire class, and exactly how they legally use massive amounts of debt to live in absolute luxury without ever paying a single cent in capital gains taxes, you have to watch this video right here on the screen. In it, I completely break down the ultimate buy, borrow, die strategy, and I show you exactly why the elite absolutely never, ever sell their assets, using them as massive collateral to completely manipulate the banking system instead. Click that video right now. Your future, highly invisible, tax-free self will eternally thank you. I will see you over there on the other side.